6 o'clock in the evening and I am full on in my pajamas. No shame. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another full month of nothing new video. For today's video, this is actually a video I did that was inspired by one of you in the comment section several months back. You suggested doing a video where I shared with you guys a couple of eyeshadow palettes that I reach for a specific signature type of look. I loved this idea because as much as I talk about how much I love to play with eyeshadow and experiment with color and be creative with my eyeshadows, more often than not in my everyday busy life, I need looks that are not going to require creativity and thought. I need something that's going to be effortless, I know is going to look good, and it's not going to take a lot of time or a lot of thought. And there are certain palettes that I feel like I reach for that type of an everyday, no-fail kind of look. So that is what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. Basically 2 different eye tutorials using 2 different palettes, both of these being ones that I reach for when I'm going for this kind of basic signature kind of look. I do want to say this, although these looks are both very basic and quite simple, that does not mean that I think these are boring. I still think these looks are absolutely beautiful. They're the ones I kind of gravitate towards. They're just the type of looks that I consider to be the most reliable. I know that these are going to look good every single time I wear them. So the 2 palettes we are going to be using to create these looks today are first off the Persona Identity Original palette, and the second one is the Huda Beauty Smokey Obsessions palette. Both of these palettes are longtime favorites of mine. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about them a lot if you have been here for a while. And before we jump into both of these looks, a special welcome to any of you that are new to my channel. I hope that you will consider subscribing if you haven't done that yet. Also, click that little notification bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. And now let's get into my 2 signature looks. Alright guys, so we're going to kick things off with the Persona Identity Original palette. So the first thing I typically do when I'm creating kind of a signature look with this palette is I will dip into these 2 shades together. I find the transition shade Charming is just a little bit too dark for me. I mean, I can definitely use it, but I like it a little bit lighter than that, so I'll add a little bit of the cream shade above it and use that just kind of on and above my crease, slightly onto my brow bone. Because this color is pretty soft and subtle, I really like to blow this out. Kind of really pull it out and almost pull it all the way up to the corner of my eyebrow there. And then I'll just feather it in. And if you find you get a little bit too heavy-handed or things get a little bit too dark, you can actually just dip into the cream shade and just kind of blend over that. These shadows blend so easily. I mean, truly a couple of strokes and any minor mistakes are just smoothed over and blended out. Now I'm going to take this Real Techniques, just really small kind of smudgy buffer brush. I'm going to dip into just the transition shade here, the shade Charming, and we're going to run that just under the outer 2/3 of the lower lash line. Now we're going to dip into my Wayne Goss brush. I'm going to take this color right here. I love this terracotta sort of shade. I think this is a really beautiful shade for just an everyday kind of look. If you want something that's just a little bit more warm, I would say if you're wanting to do a look that's not quite as warm, I would dip into this shade right here, which is kind of the taupey brown or the purple color. But I do love the subtle warmth that this shade has. This is the shade Audacious. And it actually looks a lot warmer in the pan than it does on the eye. It just gives you this really soft, warm brown. I'm just taking what's left and kind of really just going into my socket about 2/3 of the way across. And I'm also going to take what's left on the brush and just kind of drag that below just that very outer corner of my lower lash line. And this just kind of blends all these edges nicely together. So I do want to go into this color right here, which is the more flesh tone. This is the color Humble. And I am going to take that and run that under my brow bone and kind of pull it around this edge right here where things just got a little bit too wide. Right there, this will help kind of clean things up a little bit. Okay, so now one of my favorite parts with this palette is the lid shade. This palette has what I think are some of the best lid shades that I own in my entire collection, particularly these 3 shades right here. We have this one, which is the color Bombshell, kind of has a bit of a green shift to it. This is the more gold, this is the color Gold Digger, but it's a very subtle more of a champagne kind of gold, and then this color right here, which is the color Seductive, yes, is a bit more of a taupe sort of color. But all of these look stunning on the eyelid. For today's look, I'm going to use probably what is one of my most reach for shades, and that is the shade Bombshell. I love the green shift to this shade right here. It's one of my very favorites, and I just love Persona's shimmer formula. It is so very smooth and refined. It's more of like a satiny shimmer, but it looks amazing on anyone's eyelids. I think if you have folds in your eyelids and you find that more chunky shimmers tend to emphasize those folds and you don't like that very much, this is the type of formula that I would recommend because it just looks beautiful and it's just so easy. I mean, look, boom, that's it, done. So I am just going to put that on the lid, and I go about 2/3 of the way across, and then we'll just blend out that edge. Back into my Wayne Goss brush, we're just going to feather that edge just a little bit, just so we don't have a harsh line where that shimmer meets our outer corner. I just basically kind of dust that away, feather it in. If you find that you got a little too much shimmer, like I feel like I did on this side, I'm going to dip back into that orange shade. We're going to add just a touch more to this outer corner right here. And now for my inner corner. I also love this shade right here for the inner corner. This is the shade Sassy. Such a beautiful, very ivory toned champagne. I'm just gonna pop that on my inner corner with my pinky finger. Now sometimes I'll just stop here and just go in with a traditional liner, but I think today, just to show you guys what I like to do if I'm adding a little bit of depth, I'll dip into this shade right here, which is the color Fearless. It's a very rich, deep, deep matte brown. I'm going to take that on my Morphe M507 brush, and we're just going to add a touch of this to this corner right here. So hopefully you can tell just the subtle depth that that gave that outer corner. Just the tiniest bit of a very, very dark chocolatey brown or even a black, I feel like can give such a transforming effect to your eyes if you want just a touch of drama that doesn't really look like you did much different. And I'm just going to leave it at that because if I'm in a hurry and I'm using this palette for a signature look, I'll typically just do that with the shadow instead of adding liner and then just go in with mascara. So I'm going to add a couple of coats of my IT Cosmetics Superhero mascara and I will be right back. Alright guys, so here is signature look number 1 using the Persona Original Identity palette. This is one of my most reach for palettes when I want to just not think about what I'm doing and do something that just works for me. And I love the formula of Persona's eyeshadows, which I'm sure you guys have heard me say 1,000 times. But I hope that you guys liked this first signature look. Now let's go ahead and jump into palette number 2 for look number 2. For look number 2, I'm going with the Huda Beauty Smokey Obsessions palette. I talk a lot about how much I love these Obsessions palettes, and this is definitely one of my favorites. It does have a beautiful smoky color story, but there's just so many good basics in here. The only thing that I think this palette specifically doesn't include is either an inner corner or a brow bone shade. You can definitely get a very smoky look out of this palette, but this is one I reach for when I want just a very basic look that's just leaning a little bit on the smoky side. So that is the look that I'm going to be creating for you guys today. First off, we're going to go in with this transition shade right here. I'm going to take that on my Morphe M504 brush, and we're just going to pop that right slightly above my crease. I love the tone of this transition shade. It leans just a touch warm, but it's not overly warm to where it doesn't go with the cool tones in here. It just keeps them from looking too cool tone. I love a cool toned eye that has a little subtle bit of warmth in the crease. What I typically do next is I will go into one of these dark brown shades. I guess if I had a criticism with this palette, it would just be this. I feel like these colors on the eyes look pretty much the same. This one in the corner is just a hair darker, but on the eyes, once you blend them, they're both quite dark. I kind of wish this one was just a hair lighter. But that said, they blend beautifully, so you can use just a lighter amount and really sheer them out a little bit, which is what we're going to do. I'm just taking some on the tip of my Wayne Goss brush, and we're just going to start applying that just this outer third of the eyelid. I want to keep things nice and round because this is going to be more of a smoky look. I don't want it to look too harsh, so I'm going to keep this shape right here just really nice and soft and round. And I'm going to dip the corner of this brush into the darker brown, and we're going to concentrate that just right above the lashes right there, just to deepen things up a little bit more. And I'm kind of letting this run on both the upper and the lower lash line, just right here at the corner. Just closing my eye and kind of running it along both edges right there. So for my signature look, I like to first go in with this kind of taupe color right here. We're going to take that on my finger. I'm going to apply this to the outer half of the eyelid. Not quite to the corner. I'm stopping right before I get to this corner where I have all those dark matte shades. I'm going to go back into that Wayne Goss brush. There's no new product on here, just with what's left. And just kind of feather that edge where I got maybe a little bit too much shimmer into the corner. Just to make sure it's nice and blended. We need to, at the end, we can dip back into the matte shades just to add a little bit more there if we feel like we lost some of that depth. Now I'm going to go in again with my finger on this shade right here. This is the kind of shell pink color. Love this as a lid color. And we're going to pop that on the inner half of the lid and slightly overlap that other color in the center. So this one's actually going to go a little bit over that center mark, and then we're going to just kind of press these two together just so they kind of meld together there in the middle. And because this palette does not include an inner corner shade, I'm actually going to run this all the way in to kind of my inner corner area. And now we're going to take that Wayne Goss brush and just again feather that edge. I think I do want to dip back into this palette, just into that middle matte brown shade right there. And we're going to add just a touch more of this to this outer corner. I think the secret when you're working with shades that are this dark is to just use the tiniest amount at a time and really build. So I literally am just barely touching the very tip of my brush. I know it looks like there's a lot of color on there, but that new color is just on the very, very tippy edge of it. And I'm just using that tiny amount at a time just to make sure things don't get too dark too quickly, because if you get things too dark too quickly, you have to blend more, and that dark shadow is just gonna sometimes blow out a little bit more than you want it to. So I think it's always better to build slowly when you're working with dark shades like that. So that is pretty much it. I think I do want to go back into this little Juvia's Place buffer brush right here. We're gonna go into that original transition shade. I'm just gonna add a little bit of this all the way across my lower lash line. And then as one extra step, I do sometimes do this, more often than not, I use a pencil liner, but I do want to go ahead and use this black shade as my liner today, just to kind of show you guys how nice and rich and dark this black shade is. And if you don't want to have a pencil with you and you want to use a powder, this is a great one to line with. And I'm just taking that dry on this little flat angled liner brush from Moda. We're just adding a touch of definition right to this outer corner. Alright, and that is pretty much it. I'm going to curl my lashes and again add a couple of coats of It Cosmetics Superhero Mascara, and I will be right back. Alright guys, and here is finished signature look number 2 using the Huda Beauty Smokey Obsessions palette. I love this look. This look is never disappoints. It always looks amazing. This is such an easy one to create that I feel like would look amazing on anybody. And I'm telling you guys, this Huda Beauty formula, I just think is something special. But with that, that is it for my 2 signature looks using 2 of my favorite palettes. I would love to know from you guys, what palette do you reach for that signature look? A look that you are comfortable with, that you don't have to think about. What's one palette you gravitate specifically for that reason? But that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys again for stopping by my channel today, for joining me on this full month of nothing new journey. One last reminder, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, be sure to do that before you leave. And that is it for today. Thank you guys again. I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye. Why do we have to wash? I mean, obviously I get why we have to wash our hoodies, but if only we could just never wash our new hoodies. Oh, is there anything in life better than a brand new hoodie that's still ultra fuzzy inside? I think not. Toilet flushing. Always a toilet flushing.